game-changing discussions on the big ideas that shape our thinking. This is One2one.
He now bestrides the narrow world like a colossus. William Shakespeare wrote this of the great Julius Caesar in 1623. Our guest today is a modern-day pioneering Caesar in his own right. Julius Oni is Associate Professor and Director of Global Orthopaedics at the renowned Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore. He's a venture capitalist and real estate investor through his multi-million-dollar startup initiative called Excite Capital. Julius divides his time between Nigeria, the United States, and several countries across Europe and the Middle East, bringing cutting-edge orthopedic surgery to underserved and deserving populations in a variety of cultural settings across the globe. He's young, driven, and passionate about the country of his birth. He's also our guest on the program today. Dr. Julius Oni, welcome to One2one.
Thank you. Really appreciate the opportunity to be on this platform. Thanks.
Fantastic. So you are currently starting this year, 2024, Associate Professor, Department of Orthopedic Surgery, Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. Prior to that, you were Assistant Professor for a period from 2016 up until 2024. Since 2022, you've been Fellowship Director, Adult Reconstructive Hip and Knee Orthopedic Surgery at Johns Hopkins. You've held the position of Director, Global Orthopaedics at Johns Hopkins since 2020. And for me, quite remarkably, you have maintained your position as attending physician in the Department of Orthopedic Surgery at Johns Hopkins since 2016. You have close to 100 research publications, articles, case reports, presentations, book chapters, all to your name, one person. So here's my question. So who is Julius Oni, this conquering Caesar of about time? Tell us a bit about yourself, your educational background, and what's left of it, and what's informed your career path and your choice of institutions attended so far.
Thank you. Thank you for that long introduction.
Indeed.
I mean, Julius Oni is just a gentleman from Nigeria. Was born and raised in Ondo State, specifically Kariakoko. And I spent the first 16, 17 years of my life in Nigeria. Finished high school at the great Citadel International College, since you didn't mention that yet.
Okay.
Anyways, and then moved on to the U.S. after that to start college. All of the things that you just mentioned happened after that. And for the next 14 years, I was either in undergrad or medical school or in some training program. Finally was done with that. By 2012, 2013 was when I finished my fellowship program. After that, I took a job, my first job, in Philadelphia at Einstein Medical Center, now known as Jefferson Einstein. And it was from there that Johns Hopkins came and recruited me, and I've been there ever since. But yeah, so for me, I am a person who is filled with passion. I'm a person who is driven by strong convictions. And about 5 years ago, I had come up with my life's vision, which the first of which is that I want to significantly contribute to improving access to high-quality musculoskeletal care and all other, and extending from that, other forms of healthcare in underserved countries, starting with Nigeria. So once I came up with that, vision statement a few years ago, I started working very hard towards it. And that is the road that led me here today.
Thank you. And that's very useful, very interesting insight. Of course, organizations have visions and mission statements. Not very often do you come across an individual absolutely is able to articulate their purpose as you have. So that leads on to the next thing I want to ask you. having discussed this, what we now know is, what we do know of you wear a number of hats, at least 3, at least, that I've been able to articulate so far, each a legitimate career path in its own right. Academia, you're a venture capitalist, the quintessential entrepreneur, and you do a lot of work in the not-for-profit sector, in advocacy, and so on and so forth. First of all, tell us, well, I would like to know where you find the juice, the extra hours. I would really like to know. And I'm interested in the why. Why as well. Also, talk to me about your interests in these 3 areas. They're quite separate, quite diverse. Your specific endeavors in each of these 3 areas.
Okay, so yeah, for me, it all started from while I was young. When I was young, my father was he still is a general practitioner.
Yeah, we were talking about him earlier, weren't we?
Yeah, he knows you.
Yeah.
Dr. Julius Oni, and he's at a small hospital. And actually, as a young chap, I would run around the hospital, and in those times, I actually did not want to do medicine at all.
Tell me about it, yeah.
Because I just I saw a whole bunch of things, and I was like, that's not for me. But then when I got to undergrad, I started to have this affinity for biological sciences, the physiology of the human body, and trying to figure out ways to address pathophysiology. Those fascinated me to the point where I knew that this was my calling. I had to apply for medical school, and I was fortunate to get into a fantastic medical school, Howard University, where I had a great experience. But really, a formative experience for me came in my 3rd year of medical school. I had gone into medical school thinking I wanted to be a cardiovascular surgeon. And then I was having a conversation with my father in my 3rd year. That conversation went something like this. Hey, how are you? I'm like, I'm doing fine. He asked me, what are you trying to do, and what are you currently on? I said, I'm on my cardiovascular rotation, surgery rotation. I still think I want to do it, but things of that nature. And then I was asking after my paternal grandmother, who is his mother, and I was like, we call her Mama Nurse. How is Mama Nurse doing? And he went on to tell me about how she was having such severe knee pains that she was having problems getting from the living room to the bedroom. So come to find out, my own grandmother had end-stage knee arthritis. So that's severe knee arthritis that was preventing her from being able to walk and enjoy a life. And so I naively asked my father, so why don't you just take her to somebody to fix it? What's happening? And this is in 2006, by the way. And he says, she's gone, but there's really no one to fix it. I think at that time, the few people that were doing joint replacements in Nigeria had like 2-3 year waiting lists. So I was like, what? How? In a country of, at that point, maybe 180 million people. Now we say 200 and 220 million people, right? I was just flabbergasted. So that started a cascade of events that led me to change my career path from cardiovascular surgery to orthopedic surgery. And very shortly afterwards, I rotated through orthopedic surgery, loved it, loved the personalities of the surgeons, started to feel like, yes, I may be finding something that I'm super passionate about. And while I went through orthopedic surgery residency, it became very clear that, this was the path, this was what I was made for. This is what my passion is. And right after that, because of my grandmother and because I truly enjoyed doing joint replacements, I went down the pathway of doing an additional year of fellowship in joint replacement at Rush University Medical Center, one of the foremost, best places to train for joint replacements at that time, and still is. That particular formative experience led me down the path of joint replacement surgery. Unfortunately, my grandma did die about 3 years after that conversation. But over the last 12 years, I've gotten to take care of other people's uncles, aunties, fathers, mothers, grandpas, grandmothers, and mostly in the U.S., but also I've had the opportunity to take care of patients in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in Nigeria over that span of time. But for me, the last several years, there's been a deep conviction in my heart because I know still today, in 2024, there are still so many people just like my grandmother back in 2006 who still have significant need for the services that I can provide. And there's still so many of them that still cannot access it. Even for those that can pay for it, a lot of them are still having to travel outside of the country. I mean, over $1 billion is spent on medical tourism, right? That's the low conservative number estimate, right? Yeah. And a significant portion of that, when you look at the reasons why people leave, is for musculoskeletal care.
About $400 million worth.
Absolutely, $400 million worth. There's back pain, there's hip pain, knee pain, fractures, things of that nature. So for me, yes, I was, I became very successful in orthopedic surgery at one of the foremost institutions in the world, but that conviction stayed there. And I felt like there's gotta be a way to make a difference in our very dear country. And initially, over the last 10 years, I would come, actually starting from my fourth year of residency. I remember in fourth year of residency, I came to Obafemi Awolowo University, gave a talk, operated with the surgeons there as a fourth year resident. And since I became an attendant, I've been coming, became a consultant. I've been coming to Nigeria to offer services, do nonprofit work. We have a nonprofit called Operation Stand Walk Run, where we've done some hip and knee replacements for people who cannot afford it, and me and other surgeons, included my very dear friend Dr. Ham Oyinke, who's been at the forefront of also driving change in the world of orthoplastic surgery in this country. Have done that work. There are other surgeons that have been doing those works in silo also. There's the guys at Nikia Hospital, Dr. Onwachukwu, and the group there. There are different groups like that. And you just, there's the Dr. Professor Abudu has been coming down from the UK. So there are some of the local surgeons in different places, in NOH, Kano, NOH, Enugu, NOH, National Orthopaedic Hospital in Lagos. These are the people that we stand on their shoulders. But I do believe that the way that we solve our problems long term in healthcare, regardless of the specialty, but the one I know is orthopedic surgery, is combining the resources and the expertise of diaspora surgeons with the resources and the expertise of our local surgeons, and finding a middle ground where we can leverage that collaboration to expand access to care to the most number of patients. So I did. That's my orthopedic surgery life. In 2015, I started to invest. So I became an orthopedic consultant, orthopedic surgeon in 2013, and spent the first 2 years kind of saving up and enjoying life a bit. And then in 2015, I started to invest quite a bit. I started doing a lot of angel investing. So that is a high risk, high reward type of investing where you explore a bunch of startups, you invest in them, and then you expect about maybe 10 to 20% of them to become something. Yeah. But hopefully that makes up for your entire investment portfolio, right? So through that, I invested in Helium Health, which is, so even then I was thinking, I was Nigeria focused, even though I spread those investments, not just throughout, Nigerian healthcare startups, but there was some emerging market startups from other places, but also U.S. healthcare startups. Sure. So Helium Health, led by Adegoke Olubusi, and they've done very well over time.
Yes.
I actually partially exited my stake. I was their first investor outside of the founders. So that's one of my badges of honor.
As angel investors, that's an investment we got out. Yeah,
partially. Yeah, so, but and that's global. It's become like I think the second largest diagnostics startup in the country. I think after Union Diagnostics, they may be the largest, and that's run by my brother, Shogaoni. So, and then there's others, Romtech in the U.S., Aikido Labs, Cronus Health, a few others like that I invested in between 2015 and 2020, and with significant success. But that was a high risk, high reward type of play.
Sure.
And I started thinking, there's got to be a better way to meet my daily expenses, have some cash flow, and not have to trade my time just for money. Because I realized that the only way to actually become truly free, to have the freedom of the geographic freedom, time freedom, financial freedom, all of the freedoms, is to essentially detach this, idea of trading time for money.
For money, yes.
Absolutely. So I started to invest in single-family real estate initially, because that was all we knew as Nigerians, as healthcare professionals in general.
You put your money.
You buy a single-family home, you rent it out, and that's it.
Yeah.
But then quickly I realized that the cash flow from that was pretty low, and that I actually did not enjoy dealing with tenants directly, and termites and toilets, and going back and forth with that.
An agent.
So I then got a property manager, and then interestingly, they were charging me so much just to change a doorknob, to change a bulb. So I was like, this is not going to scale. It was around that time that I discovered multifamily real estate, and I discovered it through one of my coworkers. I was operating on the patient. And my co-worker was the certified registered nurse and anesthetist. Right. His name is Leslie Awesome, now my co-founder and partner of my real estate venture, XI Capital. We were operating together. I was putting the patients to sleep. I was operating on them. And when we had a little bit of break, it asked me, it's like, hey, listen, have you ever heard of multifamily real estate? I was like, what is that? It explains to me that it's, buying apartment buildings. And I'm like, interesting. I used to live in those apartment buildings coming up the ranks, in undergrad and in medical school and things of that nature. I was like, I never thought, it would never cross my mind that it was possible for someone like me to own them. So I was like, ow. It was like, well, you may not have $10 million or $20 million to go acquire a 100-unit property, but we could do it together if enough of us are willing to come together. And this is why one of my favorite quotes is, you want to go fast, you go by yourself, but you want to go far, you want to make great impact, you go together. So this was one of my first life lessons in collaboration. So I sat on it for a bit, but then I started to read a lot. I started to really go to conferences about multifamily real estate. I started to listen to podcasts just like this about multifamily real estate. And I discovered that this was a great wealth generator that did not require a one-to-one trading time for money, that was relatively below risk compared to like all of the other opportunities to invest, including the stock market and other assets, and it yielded above average returns, especially if you were willing to wait. The only potential, downside of it is relatively illiquid, but we're even trying to solve for that. That's for another day. So I was like, this is incredible. This is awesome. So we started a company called XI Capital, where we went out and started raising capital from orthopedic surgeons like myself, other healthcare professionals, and underrepresented minorities particularly, because we realized that we didn't see healthcare professionals or underrepresented minorities of all professions represented in any of these conferences we were going to. And so we took the gospel of multifamily to those respective communities, and interestingly, it worked out. Over the last 5 years, we bought about $168 million worth of assets, and we generated a significant cash flow and wealth for those investors that went on the journey with us, and we continue to grow, and we're not going to stop. So that gave me because of what we were able to do with that gave me the confidence and the inspiration that anything is possible. Because 6 years ago, if you told me that I was going to be the CEO of a private equity, multifamily real estate firm that was going to be able to make that much of a difference, I would say you were smoking something. Yeah, right? But it happened. Yeah. And it just took a bunch of people putting their minds together, going out there, telling the story of what is possible when we all work together, right? And we did something incredible. So once I was able to essentially create another source of income outside of medicine, so the question was now, how do I really want to create impact? How do I want to change the world, like in my own little way? Yeah, because, there's that quote that says you have to be the change you wish to see in the world, and that resonates with me. So that was what actually started me on the journey of saying, it's time to go to Nigeria. That was when I came up with a vision statement saying, I want to improve access to high-quality musculoskeletal care in underserved country, starting with Nigeria. And I started to work towards that. And I reversed engineer all the steps that I needed to do to essentially get there. And that's because I started asking people questions about Nigeria. I started coming down more. I started exploring the ecosystem, and I started getting a lot of great insight from a lot of wonderful people. And then I was like, interesting. Just one-on-one conversations are yielding these great insights. What is going to happen if I went out and built a community or started talking to a larger community? Then I could really get even greater insights. And that's when I started the LinkedIn community and started posting more frequently on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. And in 3 months, we grew to 24,000 people. Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you enough how much great insights I've gotten from that community. Absolutely. I mean, they've just been super supporters. I mean, there's a few of them that think I'm a little crazy for leaving everything in the U.S. but for the most part, they are extremely supportive. Yes. They rally around me. Even the times when I'm a little weak, they make me feel significantly strong. And I'm extremely thankful for that. So, so the investment life still goes on. I'm still running Excite Capital from here. And I still am running. I'm still the director for global orthopedics at Johns Hopkins, and now I have my orthopedic surgery practice, Doc Medical Nigeria, which is housed in Cedar Crest Hospital in VI, where I'm collaborating with Cedar Crest, but I'm renting space essentially there. And we've been seeing patients so far. I think I started seeing patients about 4 weeks ago. And I've had some great success. Did 3 surgeries already. I have a few more in the pipeline. And more people are starting to get to know about what we do and are engaging with us. And I just cannot wait to see how much impact we are going to be able to create as Doc Medical, but also in collaboration with all of these entities and individuals that are willing to collaborate.
Fantastic. I mean, what an incredible journey so far. And I mean, the passion and the energy is undeniable.
Thank you.
You're absolutely correct in everything you've said. I totally hear you and I agree. But here's a very intensely personal question. There are many who would say that counter to conventional wisdom, what you have done is that you have made the decision to come here properly, physically, at the peak of your prowess. And yes, there are some who would say that is absolutely nuts. That's crazy. That is balmy. But I get it. My question is, why now, at a time that many would say is a very difficult time, very difficult period for us in our trajectory as a country? Why now? And perhaps you could also talk to me a bit about what challenges you have encountered so far along the way.
Yeah, that's a great question. And why now? So I really, really struggled with this decision for all of the great reasons that you mentioned. I mean, based on conventional wisdom, this is a very terrible time to be in Nigeria. Everybody's trying to leave in every possible career path, not just in medicine, but particularly medicine is extremely affected by the jackpot syndrome, right?
Yeah.
And most people, kind of see Nigeria as essentially a disintegrating place, right? They see they see Nigeria almost like a glass ball that is falling from a very high height, and it's about to land on the ground and shatter. I beg to differ. I see Nigeria as a nice bouncy ball that, yes, is descending and is falling from a pretty high height, but it's about to land and bounce back up. So if you have that perspective on Nigeria, things change completely. You look at it completely differently. When I sit down with a bunch of my Nigerian friends, 90% of our conversation is usually centered around how terrible the country is and how things are going downhill and how there's no opportunities. And guess what? They are right in many, in many ways, they are very correct. But when I sit around with some of my friends who are maybe of other backgrounds and ethnicities, who are also based in Nigeria, right? Some of them are more Nigerian than some of us now at this point. And I would specifically say, Lebanese, the Chinese, the Indians, right? When I'm having those conversations with them, 90% of the conversation is about the opportunities that exist.
Different perspective,
right? So I then wonder, what are my folks missing, right? And yes, no one is saying it's easy. No one is saying that it's going to be easy. But we have this one country.
Yeah.
It's the largest Black population in the world.
220 million people.
220 million people. We've got great potential. And we've talked about this potential since I was a baby. And I can talk all I want about how things are messed up and how everything is not working. But do I really have any feet to stand on if I am not willing to put my feet on ground and actually stay right on the front lines and be part of the struggle? For me, that is the conviction. That's the deep conviction that makes me feel like, you know what? It's either now or never. And another reason is when I put my business hat on, when you look at a country like Nigeria, agree with me that it's the bouncy ball that's about to bounce and start going right up. Hopefully not to come back down again. If you believe that it's close to the ground,
Get in.
that means that the prospect for growth is incredible. So, and the people who put themselves in the position to take advantage of the growth that is potentially going to happen are the ones who are going to be the leaders of industry of tomorrow.
Yeah, real benefactors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and it's okay for those people that are afraid to invest, to put the work in right now. It's okay. When the ball bounces and gets about here, they could jump on. That's fine, but they will be able to take advantage of this only this much growth.
So,
Right? But those people that put their feet right on ground, right at the base of it, are going to be able to take advantage of the entire growth. And so what I always tell people that I mentor or friends and things like that is saying, look, I understand it's difficult, but money is only a store of value. So all we need to do is to say, listen, what is it that I can do that a vast majority of people in this country needs? Or what is it that I can do that a niche market that needs this thing can use?
can't do that.
Like it can do without. Find a problem, come up with a solution for it, and give it a fair shot. There's no guarantee it works, but if it does work, then you would have created significant value for society, and you would have done very well for yourself economically. So for me, the question is not if it's the right move to make or not. I only count failure as not doing it at all. If I did not take this step and tried, then I would have failed. But if I've tried, for a year, 2 years, and failed at it, then at least I'll be able to say in my hearts of hearts that I tried my best. I did everything I could. I contributed in the time I was there. And it didn't work out. But if history is to be the predictor for the future, I'm not a quitter. And I intend to see this through. I intend to do my part to contribute, not just to musculoskeletal care, but to the entire healthcare ecosystem in whatever ways that I can. I feel like I'm uniquely positioned because I have industry relationships. I have relationships with my colleagues, the orthopedic surgeons, the other healthcare professionals like yourself. I have treated some people in the political elite. And so I have some inroads there. I understand the patient population just from my experience of being on ground for some time. And I also understand a little bit about the financing part of things. So I just feel like it would be wrong if someone like myself does not at least give it a shot. Come in, talk to all of the stakeholders, figure out ways and small ways to move the needle forward.
Together.
But we'll figure out ways to get us to work together, just like we did. We did impossible things with the real estate company. We can do impossible things also if we just decide to work together. And I know there's a lot of trust issues amongst us Nigerians sometimes. Everybody's always kind of, wondering what the ulterior motives are. But, I fully understand the challenge there, and I fully intend on trying my best to work to get as many of us together that are willing to do the work, and the proof will be in the pudding.
Absolutely. And I really must thank you for that. In other words, put your money where your mouth is. And it really is a question of perspective, isn't it? The key is glass balls don't bounce. So the key is not seeing it as a glass ball, but a bouncy ball. And having the insight and the initiative to get in at the bottom before that moment of impact and before lift up. I thank you very much for that. But let me talk to you a bit, remembering that you are still an orthopedic surgeon, about the concept of, and you talked about, you needed to, a problem of medical tourism, both in the case of orthopedics and in terms of the wider problem that exists. It's over $1 billion, yes. There are facilities now in this country, like the Evercares and Duchess and some others, who focus or try to address the twin problem of medical tourism, reversing the trend of medical tourism abroad, and delivering that access to affordable world-class healthcare. Now, in your opinion, in your view, is that access to affordable world-class healthcare a possibility in this climate and for developing countries like ours, or is it a mere pipe dream?
Yeah, I just don't think it's a possibility. I think it's a must.
Absolutely.
We cannot continue to subject our citizens to having to travel for healthcare, pay for accommodation, pay for the airfare, and then still not have their entire ecosystem around them to support them through what in many cases is a tough recovery process.
Yes, clinically, financially, socially.
Absolutely. So I think it's for those of us that can stand in the gap for the rest of the citizenry. We have to always continue to advocate for that. And that's why I respect so much what people like you and Duchess Hospital has done. That's why I respect what Dr. Ayeshoni Barry and the group at Evercare has done. That's why I respect what Dr. Felix Ogedegbe and the folks at CityCrest have done, and other places like that. I think it's incredible that all of these institutions exist, and that they are trying their best to, reduce to improve the affordability of care. But I do think that there's going to be a part that the government is going to have to play also at some point, both on the local, state, and federal governments, because ultimately, there's just got to be an increased spend on healthcare in the country, right?
The existential problem is funded.
It's funded, right? And there's got to be better insurance penetration in the country. And I know they're way smarter than me. Many people smarter than me are working on this problem, both on the state level and on the federal level. But we can't wait until that becomes a reality, a full reality for the vast majority of Nigerians to start coming up with the solutions. So for me, I know, when I think about the problem globally, it's so challenging that you could become paralyzed. So in situations like this, what I usually ask myself is, what can I do to make a difference in my own little way?
Be the change you want to see.
Absolutely. So what I've done is, I'm going to bring that expertise down so that you don't have to come see me at Johns Hopkins to have your total knee or total hip replacement. And I'm going to do my best to create an ecosystem where we could also encourage more folks like me to come down and deliver services, high-quality services to our population, because I believe the Nigerian patients deserve it.
Yes.
Are worth it.
Absolutely.
Right? And for those people that may not be able to afford the care, for example, I ran a free clinic at the OAC hospital on August 22nd. That's the first one, but we'll continue to do that. So for those people that can do that, yes, we'll see those patients, give them the non-operative treatment that they need. For those people that require surgery, they go on a list. And my hope is that we can entice and encourage some people from different parts of the world. The place where I have a lot of contacts is the U.S. I know there are people that do surgical mission trips. We can have them come at intervals, take care of that list for us, and also raise capital for maybe private institutions as part of their corporate social responsibilities, maybe from private individuals, high net worth individuals that maybe want to, help. We can create a way to do that. And for that part of my practice, the free clinic, I'm collaborating with Operation Stand Walk Run nonprofit to implement that. And my hope eventually is to get maybe the state government to even subsidize that care so that more patients can access care even faster. So yes, the care for those patients may be a little delayed, but my intention and my goal will be to get them that care as quickly as possible. So you pay with it maybe a little bit of your time versus you pay with money.
Yes.
And that is the model that I'm working with right now. But it is possible that that model may need to be iterated and changed over time. And I'm constantly telling people I welcome, new ideas about the best ways to actually, deliver this care, because my intention is to be able to deliver this care to the greatest number of people, regardless of the ability to pay. But, the realities are the realities. The practice still needs to be sustainable. That's the only way to keep it going for a long time. But we also need to continue to think of innovative ways to take care of the least of the societies, the people that cannot afford it. And that is one of my passions.
We've been talking now for quite a bit, haven't we? And we've explored some very, very interesting ideas and great insight. And what is clear to me, of course, is that you are very focused, very passionate about what is happening locally, very keen to play a part in moving things forward and moving the needle significantly. But of course, you also have a global view, a global perspective to things, especially considering your background at Johns Hopkins and what you have done in orthopedic surgery and elsewhere, Excite Capital and all of that. I'm very keen to learn from you from a personal point of view. Of course, there are some very quite interesting, perhaps I'm certain, totally unjustified stereotypes out there concerning Nigerians abroad. I'm interested, from your point of view, what's your experience of that been, and how important is it to you to deal with or to disrupt some of these perceptions and convenient stereotypes?
Absolutely. No, thank you for that question. I mean, for any objective observer, there's only one conclusion to come to about Nigerians in diaspora, and it is that we are absolutely excellent.
Yeah.
Right? No questions.
Absolutely.
Go to any graduate hospital, a graduate institution. Go to any undergraduate institution and look at the people doing fantastically well at the top of their classes in medical schools, law schools, pharmacy schools, engineering schools, and then leave the institutions, go into the workplace.
I'm getting excited now.
In the UK, in Australia, in Canada, in the US, anywhere, and look at the people who are blazing trails in politics, in medicine, in science, in engineering. I mean, there are so many professors of Nigerian origin. And the interesting thing about this population is there's a significant portion of them that still has a fire still burning for this country.
Absolutely.
And it may be burning faintly,
But it's that.
but it is that. And that was made very clear to me after my video had gone viral. I got so many calls from doctors from all over the place, from Australia, from Canada, from UK, from the US, saying, we also want to do this. We want to move back to Nigeria. We are going to watch and see what happens with you and with your career. And then we'll make a decision, And many of them were talking about short term, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years.
It's all right.
So it's not that no. They were talking about they were saying short term with regards to when they wanted to make the move.
Absolutely.
So they're not thinking about something in the far flung future. I know in the past, like the vast majority of folks that came in have come in maybe once they've retired, and then they come here to retire.
Yeah.
And I thought about that too, but I wanted to be a little contrarian, and I wanted to give my best while I still got the energy.
At the peak of your brows.
At the peak, when I still can move the needle.
Absolutely.
So, and I bet you there are so many Nigerians just like that who are watching closely and trying to see how they too can contribute. And you don't have to contribute by doing what I do, by moving your family, selling your home and selling your cars and things like that to move to Nigeria. You don't have to do that. You could test it out. You could come in, check it out, collaborate with folks on ground, give of yourself and things of that nature. And many people are doing that. And many more are going to be doing it in the years to come. And so for me, I know I can do it all, but in my own little ecosystem, with the people that work with me, in my family, I am a big believer in this country, and I will always continue to encourage people to challenge their assumptions about Nigeria, and to always, for every negative thing that they think about Nigeria, challenge it and try to think about some of the positive things that the country also has given to all of us, and that we can use to still take pride in the country. So hopefully we'll get there someday, but I will not stop talking about it until my time on this earth is over. But I do think that we can use a reorientation. So take some time, but if we all start doing it in our respective lives, we'll be very surprised, Ocean is just a combination of a bunch of drops of water. So if we can throw our own little drop of water, we'll have that beautiful ocean of Nigerian pride, of positivity, and we will lower the barrier of transactions between us. We'll increase the level of trust between us. We'll start to operate collaboratively, and incredible things happen when we're able to do that.
Absolutely. Assuming you were, let's say, the health minister of this country, you have all of these responsibilities, and you have the ultimate responsibility to all this balance. Talk to me about 3 things that you would like to see done in order to ensure that we are delivering proper, socially responsible healthcare services to the population.
If I was the health minister, what I would do, and I'm thankful I'm not, because I love the private sector. What I would do is find one or two things. Because I know I cannot solve all of the problems, but I do know that I can provide the minimum care for the vast majority of people. That will be my goal. I'll choose a number. I want to solve this healthcare problem for 20 million additional Nigerians, right? And I want to solve it across the country. So some of the basic healthcare needs are probably going to be run through some of our private health, clinics. So obviously, you drive a lot of resources towards those, and significantly guard against the leakages that are associated with the delivery of those resources to the end users on ground. And the easiest way to do that typically is to deploy technology across the entire ecosystem, where down to the person that needs to use it, they don't get to see any cash. They don't get to down to like the procurement of the medical consumables, instrumentations, devices that are necessary to use. You could digitize all of that so you could track every dollar where they're going. So where I'm going with this is technology has to underpin every effort, because that discourages the flight of the resources that you are intending to use for all of this efforts. And another pathway that I would probably focus on also is going to be developing our healthcare industry. It breaks my heart when I use a glove and I just know that this is the worst quality thing I've ever experienced in my, in all of the places that I've practiced medicine. It breaks my heart when I put on a surgical gown and I just know that this may not protect me or the patient the way it's supposed to. It breaks my heart when someone is trying to open a sterile glove, and there's no way to open it without breaking sterility. It breaks my heart when I ask for an alcohol pad to clean something, and what I see is a cotton ball dipped in ethanol. It breaks my heart when I'm trying to sterilize the body before surgery, and I'm given the sterile fluid that's been sitting there for weeks in the corner of the operating room. These are all things that can be solved for. And one of the ways to do it is just to partner with the private sector. Make the cost of bringing in raw materials next to nothing. Facilitate cheap financing for the willing entrepreneurs who are willing to go out and make the gloves, make the gowns, make the chlorhexidine swabs, make the syringes, the needles, make the IV fluids, make the drugs, that is going to solve it for the population. Because as far as we are dependent on an importation regime where, I just have to wait until some folks bring things in, and we always going to be subject to the quality that they deem fine. And most of the people bringing it in are not even in medicine. They are pure business folks. And so what's stopping them from asking for the worst quality and still selling it at the premium pricing? Right? So I will disrupt that market by working towards healthcare manufacturing in the country. And to be frank, the current government are saying the right things. They are putting all the right things in place to try to do that. I see some of the undulations and some of the attempts to make this happen, but I do think that this need to move even faster, because God forbid we get another pandemic and all this other countries starts to hoard all of their supplies again. They hoard their masks or their vaccines or their medication or their consumables. Are we, as the giant, so-called giant of Africa, going to be on our knees again begging? I would probably focus on those two things. And I just believe in the ability of the folks in this country, both people in this country and its children all over the world, their abilities to come up with the unique ways of solving our problems. So maybe the third thing I would do is make it so easy for the thousands of Nigerian doctors throughout the world to contribute at home. I'll make it so easy that it would be literally, if you needed a license to practice, we would obviously check, your credentials. It's easy. You literally could go to any board of any specialties in any respective country online, check to make sure that person is still a valid practicing physician. That is how you start to reverse the brain drain. But unfortunately, obviously, there's going to be all the bureaucrats are going to come into place. There's always the folks who think they don't need additional folks to come help them do anything. And usually they are the people benefiting from the status quo.
Yeah.
And so, So for me, if you are willing to partner with us so that we can expand access to care for the greatest number of patients, I will work with you. If you want to be in the way, then we'll get through you, over you, or right by you. So that will be my approach.
So speaking of spinning balls, what has become clear in this conversation is that you have many balls to juggle, glass or otherwise.
Yeah.
You are a very, very busy man, and you have to juggle all these balls simultaneously in order to make the kind of impact that you're making. So tell me, what do you do to relax, to unwind, to de-stress, as they say?
Thank you.
You can tell me a bit about the bow tie while you're at it.
Yeah, so what I do to relax, I love music. I love spending time with family, and this is a good time actually to talk about how important family is to me. I have a beautiful, wonderful wife and two wonderful kids, daughters, that came with me to Nigeria. And I can tell you, my wife gets all the credit, because if she had told me she is not coming, there's no way I would have been able to do this, right? But she is such an incredible woman that she saw the conviction. She knew how tortured I was about it. She knew that this is where my heart was, and that I really just want to see what kind of impact I can create, and she supported it 100%. So I am so thankful to her. And my beautiful daughters, I just love playing with them, taking them places, to the playground, and, having conversations with them. One of my daughters is actually turning 4, and the other is 2 years old, and they just, it's just so cool to have those conversations with them. I'm like, wow, I remember when you were a baby and crawling around here, and now they're having great conversations. It's fantastic. And usually I try to take on some hobbies like every so often. At one point I was learning how to DJ. I'm back to that right now. One of my friends is teaching me how to DJ again, and I'm going to be pretty good soon. I love, my favorite artist ever is Black Coffee. And I actually play that in the operating room a lot of times. I love traveling to different places, and that's why even part of what I've done so far is global orthopedics. I have licenses to practice in the U.S., in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in Nigeria, and probably will be more places to come.
They're here.
And I enjoy it. So those would be some of the things that I love doing when I'm relaxing.
Here. We're rounding up now, and you have spoken about and acknowledged so many people. Dare I ask you the question about personal heroes? Oh, but if you have any, or one, tell me about it.
So my personal hero are my parents. Yeah, they're just incredible people. So when I got the opportunity to go to the U.S., they mortgaged our house. Yeah, they didn't have the money to send me to the U.S. to go to school. I got a partial scholarship. We still had the rest. They mortgaged our house. They gave me half of the money. Said, "Listen, go. Try to figure it out with that." And they kept the rest for the rest of the family. So, and they kept supporting me in whatever ways they could over time, nonstop. And they just instilled in me from a very young age the power of and the need to be ethically sound, to care for other people, to always look at others from the perspective of how can I benefit that person versus what can I extract from that person. My father was one of the best examples of this. He's done so much, and my mother too, for so many people, that I got to benefit from a lot of their goodwill and the goodwill they had built with so many people over time.
My next question to you feels almost redundant, really. And I was going to ask, I mean, all of these wonderful and incredible accomplishments, I mean, if you could, and I know I'm putting you in an incredibly difficult position here. Yeah. If you could attribute this to just one thing, what would that one thing be?
God. When it comes to the spiritual being God, who's orchestrated all of these things, and it allowed me to be in the right place at the right time, and allowed me to have the insight to work hard, to have the grit, and allowed me to, even when things look bleak, come out on the other side successfully. I refuse to take that credit for myself, because it's just divine. My pathway so far has been. And so for me, the way I communicate with God as a Christian is through Jesus. But I do believe that you have to have that direct link that allows you to show gratitude, and allows you to tap into what your purpose is. And so I talk about my conviction, but I'm talking about, the spirit of God speaking within me and saying, you know what, you've got to get up, you've got to go to Nigeria, you've got to try to do your best to make a difference. And, anytime I've listened, I've never failed. And so for me, this entire journey is sometimes surreal. I have to pinch myself a bit sometimes and just wonder how did the little kid from Ikariakoko, Ondo State, end up in this position where He's a world-class orthopedic surgeon. He's leading a world-class private equity multifamily real estate group. He is trying his best to drive change in the world of orthopedics globally, but particularly in Nigeria. He's a father. He's a husband. He is a child to fantastic parents. I mean, like, it's a brother, sibling to fantastic siblings. I just feel incredibly lucky. And that's why my daily practice, involves exercises, involves, affirmations, visualizations, involves meditating and praying, but it also involves scribing, which is my gratitude practice. Because it's easy to get all mixed up in all of the rapid pace of our world, our cell phone always beeping all the time, and things happening so quickly, and nowadays we don't get to be present too often. So I take that time to say, you know what, I want to just soak in the blessings that I have, and just say, you know what, God, thank you so much. Thank you for everything that I have. Thank you for these opportunities to wake up every day and try to drive change. Thank you for the family that I've got, for the siblings that I've got, for the friends. Even thank you for the people that think I'm going to fail, that are working actively for my failure. Because guess what? They drive me to make sure that they are wrong, right? Thank you for all the support network that you've put around me. So I am extremely grateful, and I think if we all can start to put a little bit of gratitude in our daily practice, we'll realize, to come full circle, we'll realize that Nigeria, there's a lot more positives to it than negatives. There's still a lot to be thankful for.
Okay, so I'm going to translate you very, very quickly to the public sector and ask my trick question. So if you had the opportunity, assuming you had the opportunity to be transported into public life, to serve your first love, okay? Perhaps by way of a political appointment or in some other capacity, would you jump at it? Is it something that would interest you?
I do think that it's important for good people, great people, people that are thoughtful and that care about the average person to be in a lot of these positions. I strongly believe that. Because if we leave the public sector to transactional people, to people who are just in it for themselves, then we will have these types of conversations till we turn red and nothing will happen. So, and there are some fantastic people with a heart for this work, with a deep love for public service that will be way more qualified than I am, and that I will absolutely support from the private sector. But I love the private sector. I feel like you can move faster, you can figure out problems, you can solve those problems. It may be on a smaller scale, but I think you could show the public sector some great examples of what is possible. And in many cases, you can inspire the public sector to follow suit. I mean, look at what Duchess is doing, right? Look at what Evercare is doing. I'm sure they are raising standards of care by some of the work that you put in place, right? So that is a great service to the entire ecosystem when you're able to do that. If I am fortunate enough to be able to, for example, create a healthcare manufacturing, industry, or contribute to the healthcare manufacturing industry, millions of patients will potentially benefit over time, right? And maybe there will be potential partnerships with the public sector in whatever ways that they're willing to collaborate. Oh, absolutely, we welcome it, right? But as far as I can see in my near future, my passion is mostly in the private sector, but working very closely with the public sector. And the reason is really because I see an opportunity to do things faster and get to the results a lot quicker in the private sector. I think I will be super paralyzed by some of the bureaucracy and some of the politicking and some of the the idiosyncrasies of the public sector. So I don't think my skill sets are best suited for that at this time. Maybe I evolve eventually into it, but right now my focus is the private sector, but I'm more than happy to work closely with the public sector in whatever ways that serve the vast majority of the population.
Julius, you are a great modernizing Caesar of our time.
Thank you.
It has been an immense pleasure to have you on the One2one podcast. Thank you. I salute you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Julius. Thank you. We've been talking to Dr. Julius Oni, orthopedic surgeon, venture capitalist, real estate entrepreneur. It's been a most insightful conversation. See you next time on One2one.
For more information about this program and other episodes, visit us on YouTube and on one2oneshow.com. One2one is available as a podcast on Spotify, Apple, Podbean, and a variety of podcast platforms.